Hi, my name is Paps. If you're hearing this is for my Patreon. Luckily, I have a way of recording my voice. Unluckily, it's not super quality. I thought I'd give you guys a little look into Rose, or at least the history timeline, I guess. Normally, I'd set up like a visual timeline alongside this, but it is so complicated, and I just want to be sure that I get everything right. So I'm going to kind of run through it. So we start on June 17th, 1858, when Kat and Sal are born to their parents, Rhiannon and Balder Salisbury. Balder might not be the correct pronunciation, that's how I say it, so I do apologize in advance. Within a few years, Balder chooses Sal as his heir, despite Sal being the second born, and hands Kat over to Volley to be trained as like a knight slash bodyguard. Kat and Sal are sent to the Gilded Celeste Academy in 1865 when they're both around 7, where they meet Marcus, Hera, and Hermes, along with many others, including Pan. Balder calls Kat back to their estate to discuss another mission for his empire slash gang of sorts called the Children of Balder, which is to kill Hudson Rodriguez. Kat refuses, and a physical fight ensues, leaving Balder dead and Kat physically affected by the celestial energy that's unleashed upon Balder passing away. His powers are triggered and then develop inorganically. He's around 17 at the time. Kat flees his childhood home and runs west to the Rocky Mountains, spending the next 4 years with Winona before creating the Kill Creek Gang. Volley, after vowing to catch and kill Kat, sets out on hunting this prodigal son of sorts. Within 2 years, Sal and Marcus then join the gang, and they begin slowly taking out the remaining active members of the Children of Balder. In 1881, after multiple fatal encounters with Volley and his band of merry murderers, basically, Sal manages to strike Volley down, and he is presumed to be dead by the gang. In 1945, almost 100 years or so after it's not about 100, it's closer to 80. Kat approaches Sal about what is very apparently Volley's return. And having not been killed properly and reviving himself slowly over about 80 years, they, as in Kat and Sal, make a deal to trade places in order to give Kat more time to determine how to take Volley down successfully. Jolene, John, and Jay are then thrust into a world of gods and demonic creatures that walk the earth about 15 years after this scenario. So actually, probably a little closer to 14, but around that time. These three J names, wonderful, I love me a J name, are thrust into this just absolutely terrifying world as three seemingly human people after a young boy named Henry is plucked from a field during a game of Capture the Flag in their small town of Cedar Falls, Iowa, where the Salisburys live. These monsters are introduced basically as leaks from a different dimension that have kind of slipped through this broken crack these scientists had accidentally opened. Later, it's revealed to be the ruined realms, but we'll kind of keep that to ourselves for now. In 1963, Kat is killed by Volley after a warning that preceded his arrival by 1 week. This allowed Kat to arrange specific loose ends to be resolved, but he is still disguised as Sal when he is killed. It is mainly kind of confirmed later on that the reason Kat was killed in the first place was because he was still disguising himself as Sal, and that if he had had his full powers and full abilities available to him, he probably would have survived the incident and deliberately chose to continue posing as Sal. So this isn't really revealed until much later down the line. In the midst of kind of healing through this after the funeral, Russ, Sal's son, arrives in Cedar Falls. And Jolene, Russ, and Jim, they're kind of a trio of friends from school, and then Jolene is kind of this like pseudo child of their family. They set out to retrieve and deliver a soul to Hades in the dead world that was technically overdue upon its return, which was a mission given to Sal, in quotes. Charlie then joins the team. The group is introduced to Hermes, Eudoros, which is his son, and then Achilles, which is Eudoros's girlfriend. After staying the night in Hermes' flying castle called the Castle Mercury, they travel to the dead world and experience something called the Red String Dance, which is basically a soulmate finding dance for dead souls who have yet to find their permanent soulmate in the afterlife. Russ and Charlie dance together and are deemed as soulmates, to Charlie's excitement and to Rush's chagrin. Not because he doesn't like Charlie, I just want to make sure that's there. I know in the script I said that, but I just want to emphasize he's worried because of some personal issues, not because it's Charlie. And that dread is further built upon after Jim is taken by Morrigan, Russ's twin sister and Jolene's kind of adopted sister. The group returns to Russ's apartment in Russia with Eudoros and Achilles. They all three live together after Russ's emergency surgery, having lost an eye in the fight with Morrigan. Russ and Charlie kind of begin this very timid relationship in secret, and the group kind of starts to recover from their fight from Morrigan. In this time, after a training session that goes wrong, Russ's abilities start to go haywire, and Ericura, after having been basically exposed in this portal Russ opened unwillingly, pleads with Russ to go see his uncle Cat about what's wrong. Russ initially refuses, but is then kind of forced to in an accidental answering of a phone call, and brings the group along to visit. During Russ's test, this volley Morrigan monster attacks the group, having come through the vents, and reveals that Cat is actually Sal. They're teleported into Bonnie Glen in Sal's self-preserving attempt to get the monster out of the room, and this huge fight ensues. At the end, Morrigan returns Jim to the group, having stated that he is not the human that she was looking for initially. This is talked about later. And instead trades Jim, unwillingly, for Hesperus, Cat and Marcus's son, and Abigail's. We don't learn about Abigail until a little later. Marcus reveals that Jolene has Cat's celestial blessing, a gift bestowed upon someone by a celestial in order to protect them from harm. He additionally shows the group how they work by shooting Jim in the leg, which then physically affects Russ instead due to the God's blessing he had kind of accidentally bestowed upon Jim in high school, then revealing these feelings he's had for Jim since high school. In the following days, the group watches the Salisbury family kind of implode. Marcus's anger, Ericura's bitterness, and Sal's guilt build upon Sal until he basically fails to keep his own internal monologue quiet and sends himself and the group spiraling back into the Bonnie Glen to fight this amalgamation of his fears and regret. If you've read any of my fics, Tell Me Where It Hurts follows this moment. The group is told that they are required to be registered into the GGMC, which is the Gods, Goddesses, and Mythical Creatures database, and in order to basically not be killed for insider knowledge as human beings. They are put to the test and then installed within the GGMC as field agents. Jolene is possessed by a memory of Cat killing his father during a fight with this god-killing beast on the shores of a kind of small lake town. And she summons something called the Mistletoe Blade, which is Cat's celestial weapon. The group is notified that Sal is under investigation for illegal activities, including impersonating a medical professional and editing personal information within the archives. And the group is asked by a goddess of winter during this candle nights, which is basically this world's, the Celestials' version of Christmas. They are asked to help locate her father, who they find barely alive and kind of overtaken by this monster near his home. During this interaction, they run into Morrigan, who looks and acts wildly different than the Morrigan that they've been accustomed with. She warns the group that she is in too deep with Volley, and that Volley is in too deep, and is then interrupted by the emergence of someone the group has never met, Balder, Cat and Sal's father. The group manages to kind of corral the villains away, but not before Sal leaves with his father, determined to bring Cat back, or at least trade places. Back at the hospital, Russ asks the group to help him find Hesperus, his cousin, who's managed to return from Morrigan's grasp, but it was kind of gravely injured in the process. He manages to kind of slip out of the hospital without technically being released to basically go help his Italian, Sicilian mafia group conduct an overhaul of this shipyard, a task in which Charlie and Jolene tag along to then witness this new side of Hesperus they've never seen. During this adventure, upon their return back, they are alerted to this attack occurring in Boston. Something of this apocalyptic parasite that is spreading from human to human and killing them almost immediately because they are not strong enough to withstand it. This is revealed to be Volley examining humans and sending them into this giant stadium in Boston in order to kind of pick out if humans are strong enough to withstand his abilities. During this like confrontation with Volley afterwards, Charlie manages to destroy Volley's physical form, but not before Russ is struck with Volley's powers. In the aftermath, Russ's ability runs haywire and sends the group tumbling through a portal into the ruined realms, a place Russ has been before, and these two have not. This is kind of current, like we are up to date basically with where the group is in Rose. Since this is a tabletop role playing game, which is shortened to TTRPG, the storyline and anything post canon is never confirmed until it has already happened. So all of this is canon situation, but anything past this point is not. And there are a few sessions that we have played since then, but I would love to be able to hold those off until a little bit later so I can kind of explain what the Ruined Realms are, since they are my much bigger project kind of on the side of this. I just wanted to thank you for sticking around. This video will be up for quite a bit before I will like post it not unlisted. So if you do want to find this, it'll probably only be on the Patreon. Anyway, I thank you guys for just being around and supporting me. And I hope this kind of clears up a few questions. I know this is a really simple summary. Thank you so much for listening. You can find all the other information on Patreon and on my Campfire rate. Bye.